You're listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. I started this podcast to learn what makes people resilient after challenging events and how they've used those series of events as a catalyst for change in their life. You'll hear stories of resiliency and strength, so get ready, sit back, and be prepared to be inspired. This is going to be a very dynamic episode where we'll talk about stress and overwork, a death experience and coming back to life, and the PTSD and anxiety that caused, food allergies, being at a silent retreat in India. And today, to talk about those things, is my guest, Scott Spears. Now, Scott specializes in assisting businesses and individuals via time management consulting. He's helping to get them to realize their goals through organization and wellness practices, bringing a healthy balance of physical and mental health, reducing stress and burnout. So, having been a victim of burnout and death, Scott will talk about his journey and offer his experience along with valuable wellness advice to prevent stress from dominating our lives as the number one precursor to preventable diseases. Scott's passionate about time management and how it is the first step in organizing our lives while progressing our focus into life management and self-transformation. And in this episode, we'll just jump right into the conversation with Scott.
Before I was going back to Costa Rica, one night I was a little sick already. I was tired. I was just feeling run down,
Yeah.
and I was going to bed, and my girlfriend at the time, she noticed that I wasn't breathing properly. I
Yeah.
couldn't really control my inhalation and exhalation. I was like, and
Yeah.
it was kind of scary. And she was like, "Come on, let's go to the kitchen and get something to drink." And as soon as I took a drink, I collapsed and I basically died right there
Wow.
on in the apartment. And luckily, she and her brother were there and were able to revive me. And long story short, after going to the hospital and taking all kinds of tests, nervous system, brain, respiratory, heart, everything,
Yeah.
it was simply exhaustion.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Exhaustion, and I also found that I had some food allergies that were causing inflammation that were actually healthy foods, but
Yeah.
unless you take this test, you don't know that these things are actually affecting you in the
What
long
fo-
run.
what foods were they, if you don't mind
Oh,
me asking?
sure.
I mean,
And
is it a
and
lot? Is
and
it
it
a
was
long list or?
no, it's not really a long list, but it was a frustrating list because, like, for
Ah,
instance, eggs.
oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
eggs, I would eat eggs every morning, and I was always in the gym. I'm doing these Spartan races everywhere that I
Yeah.
go and everything, and I consider myself super healthy. Um, but I was allergic, not allergic, but highly intolerant at the time to eggs,
Mm,
coconut, chocolate,
gosh.
what else? Corn. I mean, just a lot of basic
Healthy
staples
bacon.
in your
And so this
diet.
developed later on in life, it sounds like, these
Yeah, it
allergies.
actually it actually carried over. I mean, I went to some specialists here in Bogota. Amazing. I really don't trust a lot of doctors, going to
Yeah.
the hospital and or traditional because they just want to give you a drug to solve it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a doctor here, and he was able to just look at my life history, where I grew up, in Clovis and Fresno,
Yeah.
San Joaquin Valley, where there's all agriculture,
Yeah.
lots of pesticides,
Yeah.
air movement doesn't move. And I used to have really bad allergies back then, too.
Yeah.
So they were able to link a lot of these things up. And I went, okay, so before I go too far there, I said, okay, well, I need to rebuild myself. I can't, especially working for a Chinese company. If they see any weakness, they're
Yeah.
gonna dismiss you right away.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, no, I got to get back in the game. And plus, out of ego and pride, I was like, I
Yeah.
got to show these young cats that I still got it.
Yeah.
I haven't missed a step. So
Yeah.
basically, I jumped into focusing on my diet and my physical self.
Yeah.
Before that, I mean, I was in the gym, everything, and I just was. but I was running out of energy. So I attributed that to the nutrition side. It's like, okay, if I fix that, then I'm going to get stronger again and get my energy back and everything. And I only focused on the physical side, which uh, hard lesson learned. I neglected the mental side
Yeah.
of things. Not really realizing that I was not happy with my job as much as I was before. My relationship was kind of you know,
Yeah.
just a lot of things, and I was just like going through the motions. I wasn't really enjoying myself in life anymore. It was
Mm.
just doing things to get through.
Yeah.
Um, so I started to get a negative energy, a negative vibe,
Yeah.
something that I'd never really did. I was always the happy-go-lucky, positive. Somebody asked me, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'll tell them, "Outstanding." I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm doing good. No, I'm doing outstanding. I'm here today. I'm living. I got another
Good
chance of,
positive attitude and yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just spreading that. But that slowly kind of dissipated.
Yeah.
And with that death experience also brought some anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
Sometimes just out of the blue, I'd be sitting there, and then all of a sudden, it would feel. Uh, okay, don't sound. This sounds kind of crazy, but it's the only way I can explain it. It would sound. I mean, it would feel like all of a sudden I got possessed. Like
Yeah.
like something would come up and say, "Hey, remember when you died?"
Oh my gosh.
And then it's like, and then you start thinking about it, and then I would start feeling some of those same symptoms,
Yeah.
and it's like, and just start having an anxiety attack. I would have to lay
Yeah.
down, put my feet up, move my fingers and toes, and
Yeah.
concentrate on my breathing. And that started to be like a every other month thing. And
Mm.
it was like just out of the blue. You didn't know when it was going to happen. So you kind of start living in a scared mode as well.
Yeah.
So I slowly started going into a that negative path, let's say.
Yeah.
And then in the end of 2019, I mean, I knew my contract was going to expire,
Yeah.
especially with the Chinese company and how the politics are in the U.S. and that whole battle.
Gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew that was going to expire, but I had not prepared myself to slow down.
Yeah.
I was still going 100 miles an hour, and I needed to learn, okay, well, this is going to stop. So how am I going to manage my life
Mm.
when this job ends?
It's like hitting a
And
wall, right?
it
Like you just stop,
was, it
right?
was.
Gosh.
And this is what I call the tsunami of shit,
Yeah.
because everything happened at the same time. I knew that was going to happen, but I what I didn't know is that my relationship was going to be broken off. My daughter's university savings that I had saved up
Yeah.
was I'll say stolen, because it was.
Mm.
Um, and also I was diagnosed with PTSD because I was still going to the doctor saying, "What's wrong with these anxiety attacks and everything?"
Because of the death
So
experience.
the death experience and a lot of things that I just suppressed in life for a long time,
Hmm.
and all of that just crashed at once on me.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to manage it here in Colombia, and I couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't talk to my parents. I was just filled with shame.
Yeah.
Um, it was really difficult. So
How did you get
I
through the PTSD? It sounds like you're doing really well now. How did you get
yeah,
through
yeah,
that PTS?
yeah. This is the interesting part, and the most enlightening part of my life is I lost 30 pounds in the process while I was here in Bogota,
Yeah.
trying to fix myself. Like, okay, I'll just meditate, do my yoga, but it was just too many familiar surroundings,
Hmm.
especially with everything that had happened to me in those last 3 years,
Mm.
taking me on that negative journey. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I mean, I'm not one to run away, but I needed to get away. I was like,
Yeah.
I need to get the hell out of here. So I have my Google map, and
Hmm.
I have a few holes that I haven't been, that I've said, okay, definitely need to go there someday. And one of those places was India. And I had a really good friend that I met about 8 years ago when I was working for the Chinese company. And we kept in touch a lot. And I just called her out of the blue and just poured my heart out to her and
Yeah.
told her everything that was going on and said, hey, I don't I don't know where to go. I want to come to India. I do know that.
Yeah.
But if you can recommend some places that I can maybe go to meditate, like an ashram or something, and just get away, disconnect. So she gave me a couple places, and it was crazy because I would be in a different airport every week of my life for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
But I found myself in El Dorado Airport, Bogota, which is like my second home. I could go walk through it backwards and know where everything is.
Yeah.
And I felt like a little scared kid because I realized at the moment I'm sitting at the gate getting ready to get on the plane. Like, wow, this is the first trip that I've taken just for me
Yeah.
and since I left for the army, what, 30 years ago or whatever that was. And I was like, that's why I'm like so overcome with emotion. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect. Normally, I'm the pinpoint planner, like, okay, I know where to go when I get off the plane, what to
You've always
do,
had a mission. You've
etc.
always been
Yeah,
working for somebody, the army or being a project manager for
exactly.
some company or an engineer. And now
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
only you that it was your time.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
and
Okay.
what I realized at that time during that trip and after is that everything happened because I just surrendered. I just said, okay, let's just go. Let's just not think about anything. Let's just go with it. And I got to India. I went to a yoga university.
Okay.
Um, I learned a lot there about depression.
Okay.
They had a very cool program there for people who are depressed, who want to learn about how to reduce stress and anxiety. Awesome place. I mean, it's like a place where a lot of people in Bengaluru, which is where the city was, but I was outside of that, will go maybe once a year just to reduce, I mean, get the latest practices on how to reduce stress, to just disconnect and
Yeah.
everything. And I learned so much during the first 10 days I was there, and I felt just almost back to normal.
Yeah.
And then my next plan was to go for 10 days to a silent meditation retreat. It's called a Vipassana
Yeah.
retreat. I don't know if you've ever heard of that,
I
but
haven't, but I've heard of the silent retreat, but not that that
yeah,
type. Yeah.
yeah. So this is what's funny too, is I didn't plan it. I was like, okay, I'll get the flight when I get to India, I'll figure that out and everything. And I booked the flight, and there's a stopover from Bengaluru to Bodh Gaya, which is where the ashram was where I was going. And the stopover was in a place called Varanasi.
Mm.
And I never paid attention to it, but I do like to know, okay, well, what's Varanasi about? And I looked, and it's like one of the holiest cities in India. It's where the river Ganges goes
Yeah.
through, and where they do all the cremations, and that people bathe in there because they think the water is magic, and it washes
Yeah.
all their sins and everything. I was like, and I've always seen pictures all my life about it. I was like, I want to go there someday. And here I am. I'm like, I have the opportunity. I've got 24 hours before I'm supposed to be at that next place. I'm like, I'm doing that. And
Yeah.
so I got to immerse myself in that place for like 24 hours and see all the different practices and cultures and temples. It was just amazing. And I don't consider myself a Buddhist, but I
Yeah.
I read up a lot, and of course do the meditation and yoga and everything. And on that flight to Varanasi, they had a the in-flight magazine,
Yeah.
and they had an article on the five pilgrimage sites of Buddha.
Yeah.
And I knew where I was going. The ashram where I was going to do the 10-day meditation was where Buddha apparently became enlightened sitting
Mm-hmm.
under the tree and doing his meditation and everything. And they have this huge temple and everything there. So I knew I was going to see that. But I didn't know in Varanasi, like about 20 minutes outside of Varanasi, that there was another location where he first went to deliver his teachings after he became enlightened. So I was like, okay, I got to see that before I fly, So the next morning, before I'm flying to the ashram, I booked a taxi through the little hotel I was staying at, and the guy, he was. This is why I say how magical it is when you just surrender to the universe, because things just happen that you don't expect, and that will stick with me for the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
this little story here, I go to this location, and the taxi driver, he's talking to me and I'm talking to him along the way about my, why I'm there, etc. I'm on my way to go to Vipassana meditation, and he was really cool. He's super Hindu, totally into, Shiva and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he pulls up to the place. I had limited time, so I only had maybe a half an hour to go check this place out. So he's like, uh, when we get there, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be shortly, so you're gonna be here, and I'll just come back. And he turns around and looks me in the eye and says, "Prepare to be moved." And I'm like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm just on a
I
mission to
want to,
get there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see what there is to see, and then
Yeah.
come back. Been there, done that. Got the
Yep.
T-shirt,
Yep.
So, so I go to the I think it's called a stupa, which is where it's like a tower
Yeah.
almost, and that's where supposedly Buddha did his first teachings and everything. And I'm going there and I'm just checking it out, walking around. There's a bunch of monks there from like Vietnam and other countries, and they're there chanting, doing their chanting and meditation and everything. And I stop in front, and there's like this little place where they have some incense going, and I just stopped and looked, and everything just went into slow motion all of a sudden. The smoke from the incense, I looked up, the birds that were flying,
Yeah.
everything was just going slow motion.
Yeah.
And it kind of took me back for a second. And then all of a sudden it felt like, like when you go to the beach and the wave hits you and almost
Yeah.
knocks you over. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it felt like. But I'm going to try not to lose it. But that experience, that feeling, that wave that went through me was just like nothing but like a comfort wave, because the whole time I'm there, I'm thinking, what am I doing here? What am I doing in India? Am I
Yeah.
doing the right thing and everything? This constantly questioning myself,
Yeah.
when I wasn't surrendering. And at this moment, it was just like a comforting wave that went through me, telling me like, you're where you're supposed to be, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just
Yeah.
lost it. And I wasn't sad. I was just like super happy, but these tears were just flowing,
Yeah.
and it was like super powerful. So I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good. Let's go do this Vipassana meditation.
Oh,
So I go
wow.
back to the taxi driver, and he could tell, he knew. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, man, you were right. You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And
I was moved.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely moved.
Yep.
So so I got to the airport, flew to Bodh Gaya, and long story short, there I learned three very very valuable lessons during that. During the silent meditation, first of all, it's silent because they take away your phones, they take away laptops, even your watch. They
Wow.
recommend it, just to get that full disconnecting experience. You don't even need a watch, because they come along and chime the bell when you're supposed to move to the next
Yeah.
activity, basically, which is usually just lunch, breakfast, or dinner,
Yeah.
besides the meditation. So
Yeah.
because that's what you're there to do, is meditate all day. And that that was very liberating. I mean, I that was the least hardest thing to do, but it was great. It was a great experience just to be totally disconnected from everything,
Yeah.
and that allows you to start looking inward, start
Yeah.
looking at what's going on with me. Who am I, basically?
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't want to make it sound like too spiritual or too you know uh, philosophical on this, but I'm just want to explain from my experience. But going there um, and meditating for an hour at a time, it sounds really easy. It's like, oh, you just got to sit there and not move for 1 hour,
Mm.
you know. But God, the body experience, the experience your body goes through and trying not to move for 1 hour and just staying there in one position
I can
is
imagine.
extremely painful, extremely
Yeah.
painful.
When you're,
And
especially for you who is used to going 100 miles an hour.
yeah, yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, not really on that side, but more on the physical side.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I've got a bum knee a little bit, couple couple injuries years ago, but sitting there cross-legged,
Yeah.
and in one position, and your back, you sitting up straight for 1 hour, and you just want to shift your weight a little bit,
Yeah.
but you're not supposed to. They highly recommend, they teach you how you're supposed to meditate while you're
Yeah.
there. And you don't get to talk to anybody else either.
Yeah.
So um the first 4 days were just excruciating. I mean, I tried, but I was like, oh, I gotta move. I was put my leg out for a couple minutes and then bring it back in. But after the fourth day, I was like, all right, you you're here for a reason. What did you come here for? To get this experience, right?
Yeah.
So, follow the instructions. Do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
And I did. That fourth day though, I was literally crying in pain, silently, but
Yeah.
wasn't bawling like a baby, but I was just like, oh, my knee is just killing me. I'm thinking, but during that one meditation where I was able to sit and be still that whole time, I recognized what they were teaching us as well is that nothing is permanent, number one. And number two, you have control over that pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I could then I'm like, okay, I've got this,
Yeah.
I'm in control of that pain. I can feel it if I want to.
Yeah.
And I can continue focusing on that pain as long as I want to. But what is it going to do for me? Nothing.
Yeah.
So taking that experience with this kind of mind over matter, like, and it's a practice, definitely, because I mean, that session I was able to do it. Next session, no, I was back in pain. And then
Yeah.
the next session I was able to do it again a little bit more. So that's that whole practice, and that's why it's like 10 days, because it takes a while to actually practice and learn this technique.
Now,
So
has that training been able to help you later
totally,
on in life?
totally, because then I could correlate that to the depression. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a different kind of pain.
Yeah. And the
And
PTS, right? PTSD.
and PTSD, exactly.
Yeah.
And during that process, more so with the PTSD, is during that process was being disconnected from everything except for yourself.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting there for an hour, not moving and just focusing on your breathing and then focusing on everything inside, I mean, they teach you about not to hang on to thoughts
Yeah.
as well, because thoughts are what gets you out of focus,
Yeah.
takes you away from what you should be focused on. And during that process, you start thinking about so much about your life and everything that's happened from the beginning up to now. And, things that I hadn't thought about for years, like what happened in high school, a couple things, and it's like, oh, but then you make peace with it and let it
Yeah.
go. So
Yeah.
that other lesson is the law of impermanence. They call it anicca,
Okay.
and it's basically impermanence. Nothing remains the same. and to be free of attachments.
Okay.
So that could be pleasurable attachments or bad attachments. So like
Yeah.
depression, you don't want to hold on to this, but only you can move on from it.
Yeah.
And it's there only as long as you are holding on to it, right?
Yeah.
So another lesson they taught us, to kind of break it down a little bit further and easier to understand, is like, you can go stand in a river.
Yeah.
You look at the river before you step in it. It's one state, but you take one step in it, it's a different river,
Yeah.
because it's different water that's flowing all the
Yeah.
time. The temperature is different in your body, that changes.
Yeah.
Even your breath, every inhale and exhalation, your body changes. We're
Yeah.
living and dying with every breath. So it was really deep uh,
Mm-hmm.
lesson for
Yeah.
me to learn on that, and to take those, the mind over matter. Like, you can hold on to this pain as long as you want, but what good is it going to do you?
Mm-hmm.
And you have the power to let it go.
Yeah.
And the other lesson of being free of attachment, the law of impermanence,
Yeah.
those two things really helped bring me totally out of the depression, the PTSD, along with some of the other exercises I learned at the yoga university, like pranayama, yogic breathing. A lot of those things all put together just really totally helped me come out of that. And
Okay.
that's why now, to in a short story, to I'm doing this, excuse me, this wellness center,
Yeah.
to give people an outlet, to teach them what I've learned, not just on that India trip, but through my life and in that journey,
Yeah.
and try to give them a firsthand experience that they can maybe relate to,
Yeah.
rather than finding it in a book or something. So I'm doing that, and also getting my coaching going, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
online.
Oh, nice. And tell me what you're doing with children. I'm really interested in hearing
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the children work,
Yeah,
the
I'm
work with
I'm
children.
helping mostly with mindfulness exercises.
Yeah.
Um, like a lot of kids now, I mean, doing the virtual learning, virtual schooling
Yeah.
online. And it's so much easier when they're in the classroom and
Mm.
focused with the teacher and everything. But when they're home, it's easy to just
Yeah. Drift off.
drift.
Drift.
Yeah. So I do exercises like, to help them start focusing and also reduce their anxiety. So like, one little girl, she hates math.
Yeah.
She's just not confident in it. And every time it's time for a test, she just panics,
Yeah.
and forgets everything. So I taught her the breathing exercises, some
Yeah.
yogic breathing exercises, and some confidence building exercises for her, like when she's doing her homework, and to not to treat her homework, like the test, but when she goes back and checks her answers, to be happy, to be kind to herself and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching mindfulness exercises, like when they sit down to eat. I'll teach them mindful eating, like,
Yeah.
okay, before you eat, I want you to smell your food. Don't look at the phone, don't look at TV, just
Yeah.
concentrate on your food. Where did it come from? Be grateful for that.
Yeah.
How was it prepared? Who prepared it? The whole step
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And then they start getting connected, not just to the food, but to the whole process that brought it there to them.
Yeah.
Because we grow up now, it's like food is just on the table, it just magically appears, we don't know
Yeah.
where it
We're
came from.
disconnected from the
Yeah,
process. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. So
exactly.
so you're helping the kids get reconnected to their world through mindful eating, building their resilience, because this
Right,
podcast is all about resilience. So you're helping
that's right.
children build
Hmm.
resilience through those mindfulness exercises.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, anybody that can come to the wellness center where I'm at, even though it's not done. I mean, I had a few friends, and they brought their kids, and we do one thing that I like to call gratitude hiking.
Oh,
And
tell me about that.
it's mindfulness, but also it's a form of movement meditation.
Yeah.
And so it's really good for people who don't know how to meditate or are getting frustrated with meditation just starting,
Yeah.
because it's so hard just to sit there and focus on breath or
It
look at a
is. Yeah.
candle or something. So what I teach on the gratitude hiking is we just, as soon as we step out of the cabin, we just recognize the temperature. Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? But you just think this,
Yeah.
you just think this. And then we start walking. And as we start walking, we just start focusing on our breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, am I taking deep breaths? How is the air coming in? Is the air cool and then warm coming out, etc.? So
Yeah.
we move to different stages along the little walk that we take on the
Okay.
gratitude hike. So we focus on the temperature, then we focus on our breathing, and then we focus on maybe how do our legs feel as we're walking? How do our feet feel from our toes up to our legs, up to our hips? Kind of like a body scan.
Yeah.
um, and what do we hear?
Yeah.
It could be the next thing. Do I hear birds? Do I hear, an airplane flying over the head? Do I hear the wind blowing through the trees?
Yeah.
What do I smell? I like to
Mm-hmm.
ask them that when we walk by a beautiful jasmine bush that's just so fragrant. So,
Yeah.
and that really connects them right away. Like, oh yeah, I can smell that without, because like they say during the day, I mean, we stop and smell the flowers, right? But
Yeah.
we're so busy, we just like, yeah, beautiful, go.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of stages that I introduce to them, just kind of get in touch with their senses while they're
Yeah.
walking. And the better they can start focusing and shifting their mind to, okay, what do I smell? What do I see? What do I hear?
Yeah.
These things. What do I feel in my body? How's my breathing? When they are able to get in touch with those senses, then
Mm-hmm.
they're able to apply that more to focusing on whatever they want to do in every day. you
Yeah.
know so, and like on my Instagram, I'm trying to do a weekend dare for people. I post a weekend dare, and yesterday's was for people to get to reconnect to nature.
Yeah.
um, even if we're cooped up in an apartment and we can't get out to a forest or a park or anything, it's okay if you got a house plant. Hey, go sit in front of that plant and look at it, observe it, the colors, touch it,
Yeah.
and just and think about it on a cellular level, from the leaves to the stalk down to the roots and the soil. Just disconnect from everything and focus on one thing specifically.
Yeah.
So I chose nature for this weekend.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do for people right now, to help
And
them
yeah.
during
And
the pandemic.
tell me about what you're doing for people and organizations to help people get organized. That was really interesting
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I've done some trainings for businesses.
Yeah.
It's funny. I normally cater it to their pain points, but I also like to introduce um, trainings like on different business, on different cultures, generational cultures, right?
Good. Good.
Because if I've been reading, and supposed to be like in 2025, 75% of the workforce is supposed to be millennials.
And that's a
So
totally different culture than,
total different culture,
yeah.
especially excuse me, with all these businesses. I mean, with the old guard, let's say,
Yeah.
and always wanting to be rigid with, this is how we
Exactly.
do it, this is how it has to be done,
Yeah.
rather than taking the strengths from the different cultures
Yeah.
and bridging that and helping them work together. But where I mostly focus on is time management.
Okay.
um, and time management, I think, is so crucial, not just in personal lives but professional as well, because um, I don't know if you've experienced the undaunting amount of meetings that go on in a day that one is
Yeah.
expected to be in. And it's like, okay, is that really necessary?
Yeah.
Can that be solved without a meeting? And I try to for the businesses, I try to help them organize their time much more efficiently, and also introduce like a conscious wellness aspect to it as well,
Okay.
where it's hard to get them to focus just on the wellness side. So I
Yeah.
try to go through the time management. But
Okay.
when they start learning about the time management, then they start realize. Then I start introducing as well some mental health practices for
Okay.
for their employees, because a lot of corporations have wellness programs, but they're normally just focused on the physical side.
Mm-hmm.
So like, okay, I'll bring a yoga person in here and we can do some stretches,
Yeah.
during the day, and that's it. Rather than they what really interests me on the business side is that I haven't seen any place that has taught their leaders, their managers, how to recognize mental health,
Mm-hmm.
mental health flags, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, I've gone through the sorry, excuse me, let me drink some water.
Sure.
I've gone through the exhaustion
Yeah.
part of work, and I really would have enjoyed if a manager would have recognized, uh, hey, this guy's got too much on his plate. I need to take some off, rather than dumping more on him and
Yeah.
expecting the impossible, you
Yeah.
know. So I really am trying to get leadership development training in corporations that have an aspect of recognizing and fostering mental health, not just the physical health,
Yeah.
and recognizing when people are close to burnout, um, their stress levels, and how, and some practices on how to combat that,
Yeah.
and bring them back to a balanced lifestyle, because so many companies lose money because employees are out sick. And to me, it's just a no-brainer. Take care of your employees
Yeah.
and your business will thrive,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
your background in project management and engineering and all the different uh, companies you've worked with and countries and cultures is really
Hmm.
helping your business with consulting for other.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
because especially on the culture side, because uh, in the US, we're just so used to this. Okay, everything is accounted for. But if you go
Hmm.
out, go to Mexico or go to Indonesia, it
Yeah.
might be expected, but the mentality is
Different.
laid back, beach style.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard to get used to for us Americans that are high
Yeah.
strung.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
need to know how to adapt. And that's the other thing I try to bring to businesses is the how to adapt
Hmm.
to different things, like COVID happening now.
Yeah.
Who would have guessed,
Yeah.
all the things that we had to adapt to last year to continue
Yeah.
to live.
Is there anything that we haven't discussed that maybe you want to talk about?
I think the most important thing at this time during the pandemic, rather than just stressing over everything, I would like to tell everybody just to take advantage of the time that we do have right now. You
Yeah.
know, if we're stuck in the apartment, we're stuck at home, not able to go out and do what we want to do, turn that around into a positive
Yeah.
and try to get in touch with yourself. Disconnect from everything. I know it's hard a lot for a lot of people, and it's 10 days would be a long time. 1 week would be a long time. But
Yeah.
hey, if you could do it for a weekend, I can guarantee you will get so much out of it.
Yeah.
Don't talk to anybody. Disconnect your phone, your laptop, everything. Tell everybody in advance so they don't think you're crazy and that you fell
Yeah.
off the end of the earth. But try it. Try it, especially now that you have time to do it. And once you have that connection, you're going to find out, what do you really want in life, what's important to you, etc.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to work through some things that you might not have thought have been bogging you down or causing you stress. No, there's help out there. So
Yeah.
if you do connect with yourself and then say, what's next, hey, contact me. I'm happy to help guide you through the journey from my experience, and give you some pointers, and get you on your way to self transformation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. You've been listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. Join us next week for another story of resiliency. And please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and feel free to leave me a comment or email me at catalystforchange20@gmail.com, or on Facebook, we have a page at Catalyst for Change Resiliency.